On today's podcast, we're with Aaron Tilden, who's the first person in history to sell a McLaren to buy a Corvette and enjoyed it.
And not this vet, by the way, a Stingray. And I enjoyed the Stingray more. And I have a McLaren jacket on, which is really fitting. So.
Oh, that makes it even like salt in the wounds.
Yeah.
Well, first, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming
having
on.
me.
Yeah. What are we looking at behind us?
This is my 2025 Corvette Z06. It is pretty far from stock as far as exterior appearance goes. Done about everything possible that's you can't tune these yet, so about everything power mods wise under the hood, or in this case under the trunk lid, that you can do to these. It's probably somewhere in the low 700 horsepower range, and it's easily the best car I've ever had.
So well, that's a big statement.
It is.
When you say you can't really tune this yet, so what mods have you done?
Performance-wise, it's got a one-of-one custom exhaust. It should be on the market somewhat soon. It's a company actually in Morrison, Colorado. They specialize in Ferrari exhausts, and this is basically a reverse-engineered, copied Ferrari. So, yeah, it'll be on the market here soon. Other than that, I've done the Venturi intake, which is it's an aesthetic mod as well. You open up that trunk lid, and you can kind of see the carbon beauty that is the intake. Throttle bodies, 91 millimeter ported throttle bodies, and that's about it for now. I've got a couple other things kind of in the works, but that's really what's able to be done to these reliably and without going too deep in your pockets. So.
Was this the guinea pig then for the exhaust?
It was, yeah. This was the test mule. That is actually off of the bench from the kind of raw welds. It'll at some point, I'm sure, be replaced with a more finished product. But it is, it's not titanium. But if you look at it, good stainless actually starts to blue like titanium does. So a lot of people say, "Oh man, is that a titanium exhaust?" And these exhausts are so short that honestly, the cost to kind of value difference of titanium in these is really not worth it. Mm-hmm. The steel, if you design it right, this one's actually a little bit different than a lot on the market. Usually the outside pipes are the muffled section, and the inside pipes are the straight piped section. This is actually the reverse of that, and it's the only system on the market that has an X pipe that goes through both the muffled section and the straight pipe section. Kind
That's hard to wrap my head around that.
Yeah, you've been building this for a while, right? I know you've told me you're through a few iterations now of kind of making it work.
Custom doing. To give Chevrolet credit, like the exhaust on this thing is, to make it better, you have to do a lot of R&D and a lot of testing and understanding of kind of how these systems function the total exhaust section from the end of the cats to the rear of the car is about 18 inches. So, it's an extremely short section, but you can't just dump it out or it'd blow everybody's ears off. This car's already loud enough, but you have to tune the system so you get you want to keep and preserve that audible, like symphonic sound of these cars and not just have it be blah, right, loud. Sure. That's easy to do, just cut off the exhaust entirely. But no, the R&D that went into making this thing sound really like the way that we kind of envisioned it when we were developing it was to try to blend. It's a larger displacement motor than a lot of the Ferraris. So it has that high-pitched kind of, scream that everybody associates with, like, the really, good-sounding 458 Italia, all those. But it also has that deep, almost like bass note to it that, like, some of the Lamborghinis and almost more of the, like, V10 and V12s have. So it's honestly, like, it's the perfect combination of the two of those.
It is a phenomenal sounding car.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. We'll have to get some audio, while you're here with it, because it's insane.
It will be on every car once people find out what these cars can sound like, because stock, they sound really good. Once you start kind of tinkering with it and getting it to a place where you can have a little bit more fun, then, OEMs are kind of restricted in what they can do, right? But when you get a car that has such a good engine note the exhaust just amplifies that sound, right? It doesn't create the sound. It just amplifies what the motor already gives you. And this 5.5 liter NA flat plane crank, I mean, enough said. Right?
And you nailed it there. Like, for the listener who doesn't know why this Corvette would sound so much better than the average Corvette on the street, it comes down to that flat plane crank.
Pushrod V8s are the notorious gurgle, kind of deep, glug, 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 right? You put a cam in it, they sound really good. But that sound is, everybody knows that sound. It's been around for decades, literally. You go into a platform like this is it's their first attempt, right, at a flat plane crank. And without getting super geeky, I'm a mechanical engineer, so I could sit here all day and go crazy. But what a flat plane crank allows you to do is spin the motor so much faster because there's a balance between the camshaft on the right and left side of the system. So this red line's at 86, 87, somewhere in there, 100 RPM, which is, I've had a bunch of S2000s, those rev to 9. The new Temerario, I think, revs to 10, which is pretty crazy. But other than that, nothing revs that high with that large a displacement, which is really hard to do.
Yeah, just off the top of my head, the only thing I can think Chevy even attempted that with was the 302DZ Z28 Camaro way back in the day, and that wasn't a flat plane crank, it was just a race motor.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. The Chevy is, I'm not like a Chevy fanboy. I was not raised like Chevy, American cars, whatever. But they have got in this sweet spot where the old saying was like, oh, it's good for the money, right? People have said that for decades.
Yeah.
And C6 interior, C5 interior was garbage, right? The car was fine. You got a lot of power, but it really wasn't that good of a car. C7 was the first generation where the average age of the buyer started to significantly decrease, and it's continued from that point to now. There's people that are, I get kids all the time that are like, I want one of those, right? Yeah. And it's not just like, oh yeah, my dad has a 67, like, yeah, that's cool. This is a different cool that for generations will be a changing point for Chevrolet in their performance vehicles.
I agree. And you see that with the old guys who would say that it's not a Corvette, right? There was a lot of controversy that came out, even though Chevy has been trying to make the Corvette a mid-engine car since the 60s. Mm-hmm. This was always on the radar. When they finally did it, a lot of people said, well, it's not a Corvette, right? Well, it's not for you, right? Chevy had to adapt to the new generation and keep up.
I think a lot of it's not a Corvette. What those people are fundamentally misunderstanding is, what is the definition of a Corvette? What is it trying to be, and what has it always tried to be? Yeah. It's tried to be an everyday working man's obtainable car, supercar, right? This is in essence a supercar. People say it's not, whatever. But no, it is the only car. Porsches used to be kind of in that mid-range too, and then you had to go up to a McLaren, a Ferrari, a Lambo, the unobtainables, right? But there was always kind of that sweet spot that really just the Corvette and Porsche kind of nailed. And anymore, Porsche's well beyond that.
Yeah, they've moved past it. And so, like, if you go back and if you look at Corvettes throughout history, they've always been, like you said, a blue-collar car. And they've kept up with inflation throughout history the same way.
For sure.
And Porsche has not done that.
That is correct.
They have absolutely just to the moon.
Porsche has taken advantage of the market because they can.
Of course.
And Chevrolet could too, right? The ZR1s are out now. ZR1Xs just are starting to hit the market. The first ZR1 sold, not the auction one that went to charity, but the first actual sold ZR1 sold for almost $400,000. A lot of people say it's crazy. I'm included in that. But the ZR1X, I think they're about that 400,000 mark. But Chevy knows that they're selling at that. They're not stupid, right? But they know that their market needs to be in a sector where they can appeal to the masses, because they build 315 of these, I think, somewhere around there in like a day versus, Lambo, Ferrari. They make a lot less cars. So obviously the amount of R&D that goes into something like this is honestly not that much less than something like that, right? So they have to be able to balance the volume at a lower price point versus the lower volume at a much, much higher price point.
Right, for sure.
So you had a McLaren.
I did.
Before, and then you had another Corvette, and then this one. So kind of walk us through, the unobtainable McLaren to, the car before this and then this, kind of your mindset. And
yeah, the evolution was, before I got the McLaren, okay, we'll go even a little bit further back. There's a story to this. So before I got the McLaren, a buddy of mine is on the Le Mans race team. He called me in probably 2017 or so, and he said, hey, I'm probably going to get him in trouble, but he said, hey, there's a mid-engine vet coming out in a couple years. He said, you're going to want this thing. He knows I'm a car guy. We were on the Formula SAE team in college together, so he said, you're going to want this thing. And I said, man, I've never had a Chevy. Like, I probably should try Chevy before I just dive headfirst into what at that time, I was, 27 years old or so at the time. I was like, I should probably see if I like Chevy as a brand, see if I like my dealership network in the area. So I went and bought a Camaro 1LE, manual, okay, really good track car. I'm a halfway decent driver out of High Plains. I would take that thing out there, and everybody was like, oh, is that the new ZL1? ZL1's like supercharged, 650 horsepower, and this was just an NA pushrod V8 with a manual and a pretty mediocre driver, but the car was awesome.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, if this is that good, right, how good can this mid-engine vet be? It's got to be awesome. So admittedly, they came out and they were so hot. I mean, people were paying crazy over market, big sticker markups on them. And admittedly, I got a pretty solid promotion at work. I got a big bonus, and I kind of timed the market, and I watched the supercar market just tank at the beginning of COVID, right when the Stingray came out. And I said, you know what? I think I can buy this car, drive it for like 2 years, and then get out of it and not just kill myself, right? Like I'll be fine. So I did. I bought it, and luckily my plan worked. I mean, it could have totally gone the opposite direction, but my plan worked. But I loved that car because it was, to me, it was like my first, I've made it. I'm a car guy, right? Like I choose to spend my money on cars, right? Like that, some people spend it on watches, some people spend it on shoes. I'm a car guy. Yes, it's a lot more expensive, but that's what I choose to spend my money on. So I got the McLaren, and I loved every bit of it, except for one factor. It changed the way people looked at me. It was, you're in this different status of human. When I bought my McLaren, obviously my parents are like, what are you doing, right? You're crazy. But no, it was like, I got invited to a lot of things. I became more kind of included in different groups of people that I thought I wanted to be included in. Mm-hmm. But then it kind of shifted to being like, oh, you're the McLaren guy, or you're the McLaren guy. And I was just like, I want to kind of push the envelope, and I just appreciate good cars. I don't care what badge is on it, right? So when the Stingray came out, and finally after a couple years of, I had the McLaren for about a year and a half, and the Stingray prices started to come down. I ordered from Rick Conti in Pataskala, I think, Ohio. He's a YouTuber as well. He called me. He's like, hey, I can get you one. Let's get you in. So I spec'd it out, did the whole, picked every single individual item. That process in itself was really unique at that price point. Mm-hmm. I don't know of very many other cars that car was an $85,000 sticker car that you can fully customize from top to bottom. Every single aspect, right? As far as your pocketbook goes, you can go deep, right? And then I did an experience that, honestly, anyone that's buying a Corvette, if you're not checking this box, you're missing the point. It's $1,495. You still have to pay destination, even though they don't deliver it to you. But it's the Corvette Museum delivery. So you fly down to Nashville, Tennessee. You drive up to Bowling Green, Kentucky, little tiny town in the middle of Kentucky. It's where the plant is, and the National Corvette Museum. And the experience of picking that up, they make you feel like a king. It's an $85,000 car. You can go to Mercedes and just walk in the dealership, sign the papers, walk out, whatever. But they make you feel like this is such a special experience. And then, not to mention, I live in Denver, so you have to drive from Kentucky to Denver. Sure. So, and I did that in March. Probably not the most ideal time to do that, but just that experience in itself set the tone for what that ownership experience was going to be, right? So I get the Stingray, and admittedly, drove it to Kansas City. A buddy of mine's a master mechanic for Toyota, but he's really good at tinkering with cars and playing with them. So we bought a bunch of parts and drove it to Kansas City, and the day after I bought the car, we had completely ripped the whole thing apart twice and, put a bunch of carbon on it, exhaust, throttle bodies, basically kind of what I've done to this car, but on that car after one day of ownership, right? And putting that exhaust on the car, I think, was the single biggest it moved the needle so much, because the factory exhaust sounds okay on that car. Factory on this sounds good. We made it better. But the factory exhaust on the Stingray compared to, I had the Borla S-Type, which is actually the quiet of the two, I guess you'd say. It's definitely not quiet, but
Still a Borla, yeah.
It's still a Borla exhaust. That changed the experience for me, because I am a visceral, total body experience guy. When I hop in a car, it needs to be comfortable. It needs to have the right feature set. It needs to sound good. It needs to drive well. And it needs to check basically all of those boxes and have no like, oh, but I wish it blah, insert word here.
Sure.
The only thing on that car that I wished it had was more power. So I bought one with more power when I became available to, right? This car came out, and it totally moved the needle, right? So the progression was Camaro proved that Chevy Performance, they know how to build really good cars. Okay, I get the McLaren. I did track it a decent amount, probably more than a lot of people do. It was a 570S. The 570S is not a track car. It's a really, really, really fast car in a straight line. Kind of scary on turns, not going to lie. There's very little aero on the car. The Stingray, I was as fast at High Plains, our racetrack out in Deer Trail, Colorado. I was as fast in that car as I was in the McLaren, because it felt that much more stable that I could push the car harder.
Sure.
And now I get to this. There's very few people that can keep up with this car on the track in my relatively intermediate novice driving hands.
Have you logged your times out at High Plains on that?
For sure.
What times are you getting?
My third lap in owning this car, I got a 157.
So for those that don't know, sub 2 at High Plains is real good. It's kind of the benchmark for, do you know how to drive? And the car can have power, but people out there can still do, north of 2 minutes, even with power, because it requires skill. You have to know how to brake, you have to know how to turn. I guess it's kind of like the fundamentals of driving, but like under 2 at High Plains that's a good time.
Yeah. And I was never sub 2, even in the McLaren. I was a 2017 in the McLaren, and then I was a 2014 in the Stingray. Now, that in itself says a lot,
Sure.
right? So I knew there was more. I knew I could get more. I knew better brakes, better aero, more power. It does all the performance things better, right? I knew I could get there, but I didn't know how much I could get there. So admittedly, I've only had it there 3 times. One was for a charity event, so I didn't really get to push the car that much. But that third lap, I got a 157.5. And I think my PR now is just under 156, 155.9
What
maybe.
tires?
That's the funny thing. PS4S's. I have a set of brand new, unused Cup 2 Rs at home that I have it. I pulled them off intentionally because I wanted to learn the car before I put on those really sticky, aggressive $3,800 tires. So yeah, that's with PS4S's. So I'm like, Cup 2s should at least shave a second and a half.
Yeah.
So it could be in my hands like a 153 car.
That's incredible.
Sounds like we need to do a DashTag track day this season.
That's a good idea.
This is a call out. Randy Bales, I want him to do a video of built versus bought.
Yes.
That C5 built vet back there versus this at High Plains. I think it'd be a hoot. So call out to Randy Bales.
And we should call him out anyways. So if you've noticed that the scenery in the podcast has changed, thank you, Randy Bales, for allowing us to take over your garage. And if you notice the equipment and the quality has changed, thank you to Charles at C4 Productions, who has put all this together for us. So shout out to our friends.
For sure.
Yeah, they're great people. We couldn't do this without the community. Speaking of community, it seems like Corvette really spoke to you.
For sure.
And a lot of what the museum does is strengthen that passion that the community already has.
Absolutely.
Have you then carried that forward? Are you part of a Corvette club, or do you go? I don't see any New Balance on right now.
Yeah, forgot those
or
and my jorts. Sorry.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I that's one of the fun things about Corvette is the ownership group is so diverse, right? Like I meet guys that have owned 5 generations of Corvettes, right? Like, that's all they know. That's all they do. But I also meet people that are just like, dude, yeah, I'm just a car guy too, and I just went out and, man, these things are pretty awesome. So you meet such a diverse group of people, and they all have their own, you know, we can kind of make fun of, like, the classic car show, Cars and Coffee, you know, Corvette guy, you know, New Balance, jorts, whatever, that, you know, polishes every last bit, including, like, the screws on the underneath side of the car, right? But that is... I used to kind of think like, haha, that's funny, but now I get it, right? Those guys understand and they care about the car and the community, which is, I would actually challenge and say, I don't know of another brand that has that same level of appreciation for the car in such a diverse manner. People want to take it to car shows. They want to take it to philanthropy events. They want to take it to the track. They want to take it to dinner. I mean, it does so many things well that I don't know of another single nameplate, right, that actually does all of those things and gives the owner, the user, as much gratification in doing all of those as the Corvette does.
Yeah, I would say in the car world, it's the Harley Davidson of the cars.
For sure.
As far as the passion goes.
Absolutely.
You will see the guys wearing the hats, right? They have the license plate frame, like they are all about it, right? And that's not a bad thing, right? They're proud of that, and that's amazing.
See, and I like to kind of bridge that gap, right, and try to encourage. I have a lot of friends with a lot more expensive, a lot nicer, right, whatever that means, cars than this, but I would say every single one that I've said, like, come for a ride with me, drive it, you know, here's the keys, go. They've all said the same thing when they get back. What?
Yeah.
Like, how is that possible? I mean, I've literally personally convinced friends to get rid of Porsche GT3 RSs and get Corvette Z06s. I've personally, other McLaren owners, I've said, you should go drive these and see what you think, and they've all said the same thing, is like, wow, because it's not internet good. There are cars that the hype is so much that everybody, it doesn't matter what they know about cars, it doesn't matter how much they actually understand what does understeer mean. You know, you read all those articles, oh, it understeers. It understeers. What does that mean? Right? I can tell you I've never felt understeer in this car. But I have a track alignment because I knew when I bought it what I wanted to do with it, and there's a way to fix it. Mm-hmm. You get the Chevy designed, by the way, it's not even a custom thing. You go to your Chevy dealership, you say, I want that understeer gone, and I'm okay paying for a little bit more tire because you're going to go through tires a little bit faster. Yeah. But guess what? It got rid of it completely. And I did a track day, because I wanted to understand what the internet was saying. Yeah. So I did a track day before I got that alignment, and that's still when I got that 157, by the way. Wow. So people blame car things, right? Like, I don't care. The car's capable in factory form on PS4Ss out of the box.
Did it push out that much in turns?
It did.
Really?
It was noticeable.
And you couldn't throttle it out?
You had to know what you were doing. There's several turns that track has everything. It's got off camber, on camber, declining radius, opening radius. And there were certain turns for sure where I could tell, okay, I think this is what the YouTubers that are actually know what they're talking about are talking about. But the people that just hop in the car and they go drive around on public roads and they say, oh man, you know, I took it on this country road and I felt understeer. BS. Yeah. There's no way. You don't actually feel it that much because the only time you feel understeer is when the car is under stress.
I was going to say, you have to push it incredibly hard to feel that on a
And if you're doing that on public roads, you're a maniac, one. And two, you're probably not doing that with a press vehicle or your buddy's car or whatever. So they just heard one guy said it, and he probably did because he probably was on the factory alignment and went and took it to the track. And yeah, you do feel at 8, 9 tenths, right? You feel a little bit understeer. So for $275, you get the alignment done, and the understeer was not just gone, the balance became almost perfect.
Great advice for anyone who buys a Z06.
Do it. And if you're going to take it to the track, do it.
So I would imagine, because it seemed like this was an incredibly strategic approach to buying this car, because we have people who've been on the show who bought cars because they were drunk and they were on the internet.
How do I get that kind of income?
that this was a very planned purchase for you.
For sure.
Okay. Sought out. Color, everything. Like you knew what you were going into.
I mean, for those who know what my Stingray looked like, it's a twin. It's just a wider body, little bit more aero, twin, down to if there was an option available on this car that was also optioned on the Stingray, it's exactly the same. Admittedly, there were a couple things on this that they didn't offer on the Stingray that I added, but I mean, it's basically identical. And unfortunately, this color, it's called Rapid Blue, which is one of the coolest names ever. I have a lot of clothes and watches and stuff that I've kind of, really leaned in hard to the light blue theme, but it's unfortunately, they killed it. It's gone. I'm sure it'll come back through. They always kind of cycle through these colors, but it's one of the only colors. I'm not like a super shouty car color guy until I started finding really cool orange tones and blue tones.
We're in
and
black and white, and he's in bright
Yeah,
orange
I'm not
and
flashy
camo.
at all. I don't like being shown off.
My McLaren was not McLaren orange. It was actually Ventura orange, which the under base tone of that is McLaren orange, but then it adds 7 layers of flake on top of it, so it's way better, honestly.
So it's like a bass boat.
It's really nice. Yeah. But it is a pure gloss paint. There's no flake in it, and it's one of the only colors that it looks the same in every lighting, right? It doesn't change like some of those new paint tones do, but I have never had somebody come up and say, man, I like the car, but I would have gotten black, right? Like it fits the vibe of the car. And then, little things, right? Like, I blacked out the roof, some carbon mirrors. The wheels are kind of one of one. They're a custom fade from gray to a bronze color. I had always wanted to do a blue and bronze theme. I finally did that. But just everything about this car, it just kind of comes together and makes a package that I just, every time still, I've owned it for over a year and a half now. And every time I walk away from it, I still look back and I'm just like, yeah, that's it.
I'll say, when I was following you here, one thing I kind of dislike about some of these louder, faster, more powerful cars is that, especially the tuned ones, which I guess makes sense since it's in tune, but it's like the forced overrun or overrev where it's just like pop, 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 right?
Yep.
And like hearing this thing decel from probably 7 or 8, wherever you were at, and just kind of that smooth decel and just sounded just super nice like the entire time. It wasn't like it sounded great, but it wasn't like too much.
Yeah.
Right. It was just, it felt exquisite. Like it was really good to listen to.
For sure. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, if it sounds good, I'll compliment it. Because like you said earlier, there's a lot of people out there that just put like a big old pipe in it, straight pipe it, right? A little bit of bend and just a lot of noise, and I have a loud car.
Yeah.
Right? And sure, yeah, you do, and everybody hates you, right? There's a difference between loud and good, and I think this has done it. I think Corvette just has done it. Like I arguably was never a big Corvette guy. I was always, the Corvette people, like, the Corvette, those people, right? And then a buddy of mine had a C7 ZR1. And that's when I kind of began to understand, like, okay, Chevy's got something here. And another buddy of mine bought a ZL1LE and got to drive that. And it was way more power than I was anticipating, and the way that it just handled. And I drove another American, muscle car, and it was so good. And like, I'm realizing that the Americans have got this kind of figured out. And then Corvette just is, I think there's still like that very, there's a stigma attached to being a Corvette owner, but I think you're right. Like, unless someone gets gets behind the wheel and drives it, they won't understand. Like I've driven a Z06 once, and
we got to get you in this thing, man.
Yeah, I would love
to. For sure.
I had a blast. Like it was, even being in altitude, right? It felt like it was just smooth and so those that are kind of like don't know about, do I like Corvettes now? Like, try to like it.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Actually, you said at altitude. So when I went from twin turbo V8 flat plane 3.8 liter in the McLaren, made about they're 560 some horsepower. I went to a 495 horsepower push rod NA V8 in the Stingray, and I thought that was going to be a not to mention weight. I mean, the weight of my McLaren's 3,100 pounds. My Stingray is 3,700 pounds, so 600 pounds and down on power. I was like, is this going to feel like really slow? And I'll be honest, everything feels slow compared to a McLaren, like everything.
Yeah.
But it was not slow enough that I couldn't still have fun. And that car, kind of brought me back to I'm a big Honda guy. I've had a bunch of S2000s. Those aren't fast. They're quick. They're agile. They're really good to drive, but they're not fast, right? That car made me appreciate and kind of almost humbled my car ownership experience for the rest of my life of like, I don't need insane power to have fun.
Right.
Like that car it checked all the boxes. It was so comfortable. The feature set was 10,000 times what McLaren offers. The quality of the interior, the comfort level of the interior, way more. The sound, the McLarens don't sound that good.
No.
You can put an exhaust on them, you can do a downpipe, but then you're voiding your warranty, and then that just opens up a whole Pandora's box. But just the sound and the whole ownership driving experience of just hopping in, turning on the car. Well, you don't turn on anymore, you press a button, but you get the point. Turning on the car and just hearing it come to life, right? I back into my garage, so I also get like all the exhaust sounds when you turn it on. These things have push button start. McLarens don't have that. They just check so many boxes. And like I said, the only thing, that Stingray, I loved it. And people have done, we have friends that have supercharged them, twin turbo. You can do that. I am more of I want to see what Chevy engineering can develop. I want to see what they can prove. And, I mean, the evidence is the ZR1X, I will make a pretty bold statement here, is maybe the best car ever made.
Well,
Performance.
There goes our entire audience right there.
Yeah.
Just like that. No.
I mean, I have not driven one yet, obviously. It's 1,250 horsepower, and that is nerfed. That is way nerfed. The ZR1 by itself makes about 1,100 horsepower wheel. So it's probably more like 1,600 horsepower, which is crazy.
Yeah. Insane.
And the only thing faster than it, regardless of price, the only car on the entire market that's faster than it in a straight line is a Rimac Navara. It's a $3.5 million electric hypercar.
Electric, right? So you mentioned, being a Honda fan.
Big time.
Let's go back a little bit before that. What was your first car?
1994, midnight blue metallic Honda Civic DX, 4-door, manual. Okay, I really wish it was a 2-door because that was right when Fast and Furious came out, and the big wings and the big exhaust and everything. I had a cassette.
Exhaust.
Yes,
Yep.
All the fun
pink
stuff.
And blue and green exhaust.
I wanted the big, huge center-mounted tack, that they had in Fast and Furious, right? Because my car did not even have a tack. Okay, it was a manual, but the DX only came with a speedometer, a gas gauge, and an oil pressure, temperature, whatever.
Yeah. But here's the thing. That made you cool because you could actually have a tack and add it to it without adding a tack just for a tack's sake and have two tacks.
I needed the tack, right?
Right.
It wasn't
It
wasn't redundant in any way.
Because you'd go through our high school parking lot and you'd see a guy he's got two tacks.
Absolutely.
He was a street racer.
And one of them, it's just sitting there. It might not even be plugged in.
It's not even wired
right?
in. No.
It's just because how do you actually install a tack? By the way, it's not easy. That car was really fun. So this was not parents, I promise. I got home one day and there was a hole in the exhaust. I swear to God, I did not do it.
Yeah,
sure.
No, I'm
sure.
serious. I did not do it. And the weird thing is, driving home, it was totally fine. But then woke up the next morning, went and turned it on, and it was just like, blah, 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 blah.
No,
Okay.
it's louder on accidents.
Okay,
And
so
I
we'll
was
get the
like-
real story and put it on DashTag.
So my dad was like, well, let's take it to Midas, I think it was, and let's have him look at it, whatever. So we get it there, and they were like, oh, there's, I think it was one of the, baffles in, the muffler or something. It wasn't actually a hole. It was, something in the muffler.
Had been drilled out.
Yeah, right. And they were like, well, do you want the regular exhaust or do you want the performance exhaust? And I was like, what's the price difference? I'm in high school. And they were like, oh, it's only $50. And I was like, throw the performance one on there, right? So they put on a MagnaFlow, which I don't, back then it wasn't like you didn't buy an exhaust for insert car here, right? You just bought a muffler and you built an exhaust system, right? So Midas just built me a custom exhaust on my 1994 1.3 liter, I think it was, 4-cylinder. And I'm not kidding you. I wish I had sound clips of it. It sounded badass. It was sick.
Now, this was also your 16-year-old self saying that.
For sure. But then I realized very quickly, not that I snuck out very much, but I was like, man, this thing's now like loud. My parents know exactly when I get home, when I leave. They know everything about what I'm doing. But it was so fun because, again, manual, loud exhaust. You know, I upgraded the cassette to a CD player. Okay, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
And then from CD, if people remember, Alpine radios back in the day were the first to integrate iPod, not through an aux cord, but where you could actually plug in your Apple device and control it on the radio. So you could go through the old playlist, artist, song, album, whatever, like on the radio.
Yeah, we were actually talking about the old wallpapers on the CD players.
Oh,
Where, like, it was like dolphins, like jumping, and then like a race scene through a city.
The Kenwoods that had the the little visualizations.
Yeah.
No, we've come a long way from what used to be like cool, right? Now it would be like super gimmicky.
Oh, it's cool still.
I mean, we should go, I don't know, what does Bales have that has like a single DIN radio that we can put in one of those like pop-out DVD systems in, right? Like probably that 996 over there. I'm sure we could do that in that. That'd be fun.
Oh, that is awesome. So, you know, other than having the world's most expensive exhaust on this Honda, did you do anything else to it? Like, was this the starting point of passion where you're like, okay, more. Let's do more power. Let's do more.
I was so poor at the time, and I was picking, like, do I want to take my girlfriend out to dinner or, like, do, like, car mods?
Yeah. I think all guys have gone through that.
All guys went through that, right? And probably still are. No,
and why we're all single. No, I'm just...
Yes, right. I didn't do much to it because I actually just... It was my dad's car, and he handed it down, and he bought it from brand new. So I had, like, a soul connection to it more so than, like, I want to take this and, like, totally mod it out. But that was just like the tip of the iceberg, right? That exhaust, I mean this, I did not actually mean for that to like happen. I was into that whole like Fast and Furious and custom whatever, but I was like, that was not a priority at the time, right? But then that just created this massive snowball because once I got a little bit nicer cars, I went from that to a 98 Accord, again, manual. I'm a big manual fan. But that wasn't like, that was kind of my head gasket blew and I needed a cheap car, so I went and found that. But my first like fun car after that was a 99 LS VTEC Integra. And that was the first car that I've really like modded. Yeah. Like done a lot of work to. I painted the engine the engine head cover on it. I painted the brake calipers for the first time, which I was like scared to death I was gonna like mess up the brakes or whatever. I replaced, this was a green car, okay? Green car, red brakes, red engine, okay? But I found these super awesome Sparco looking racing seat things on like whatever, it wasn't Facebook Marketplace, it was probably Craigslist or something back then, right? But they were bright, like that color blue, and I was just like, I have to have them. That's so sick. Like, I need those. So I went and bought those seats. I put in like harnesses that I'm sure were just like bolted to like the seat bolts or something, not like actual restraining in any way, shape, or form. Sure. I put in a really nice radio, subwoofers, speakers. That was like my first modded car.
What year was that one?
99.
Okay, so is that nicer body style compared to
I love those.
Yeah, that was great.
I've debated going and buying one of those or a Prelude, which is one of the only like cool cars that I always wanted that I actually never owned. Yeah. And just like building it.
That H22 motor was just
beautiful motor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now everybody does J swap.
That's right.
Like, but H was like our thing.
For sure.
Because it wouldn't fit in a Civic. Nope. But people would swap it and just drive without a hood.
Yeah. And mine was the LS, which was the only non-VTEC model, but you could retrofit VTEC onto it, which I didn't do, but the previous owner did. It also, I was in like SCCA, like kind of cone course racing at the time. So it had a full Eibach suspension. Like every component you could touch on that thing was replaced, and it rode like shit.
Of course.
I mean, it was just like driving down the street. So there was one time I had to have my mom come and pick me up. I went to Wichita State, which is like a couple hours southwest of Kansas City, and I don't remember why, but for some reason my mom had to drive my car to the Kansas City airport to pick me up. And one, keep in mind I have harnesses, right?
Yeah.
And I had taken out the like seat belt, which I don't know why I did that. I probably should just left it. But and she called me like, how do I do these seat belts, right? One, and then two, like, why does it drive like it's broken?
Yeah, is it broken?
I was just like, yeah, that's like how race car at the time, like that's how it drove, right?
Ma, it's cool. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Red and blue and green, huh?
Blue seats. What color harnesses did I? Black harnesses. I had red harnesses, but they like didn't work for what I don't remember. They were 6-point, I needed 4-point or something. I don't remember. But black harnesses, bright blue seats, red calipers, red under the hood, huge exhaust. I put that on there too. But it didn't sound as good as my Civic. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of weird.
Huh.
And then a bunch of audio stuff. I've always been an audiophile, and that's honestly like, again, this thing has, I promise, the best factory audio system I've ever heard.
Bose?
It is called the Bose Performance Series. They only make it in this was the first car. Now I think it's in like 2 other cars. It's like 22 speakers in that.
How much does that car weigh?
It's heavy.
Yeah.
So this is actually the first generation, I believe. Nobody fact check me on this, please. But I think this is the first generation that the Z06 is actually heavier than the Stingray, which is usually the opposite, right? Because it's usually they try to make it as tracky as possible. But this is 3.6 actually inches wider than the Stingray. It's a smaller motor, obviously 5.5 liter, but I think it's like 80 pounds heavier than the Stingray. So I think it's like 3,800 pounds ish.
Okay.
In the coupe form. The convertible, actually, I like to see the motor. That's the only reason I get the coupe. And the roof still comes off, which is kind of nice. But credit to Chevy engineering, the convertible is only like 110 pounds, I think, heavier.
Wow.
For a push-button hardtop, which is like, there's a lot more weight-adding soft tops than that. So maybe my next one will be convertible. Who knows?
Going back to your early days, car ownership, did anyone particularly influence cars for you, like really change your life and kind of, was it a best friend, your dad, uncle?
It was my sister's best friend's dad.
Okay.
He was a big Honda guy too. His claim to fame is he had a house fire, really sad actually, but he lost 9 Hondas in that fire. Because he had Honda lawnmowers, Honda weed whackers, Honda motorcycles,
generator.
I mean, literally anything, Honda generator. Yeah, anything Honda that you could have, he had. So he was a big Honda guy, and he was actually what got me into cars was him. One, and then I did a career like shadowing thing. I think it was in probably like 6th grade or something, and I went to the local custom car audio shop because my dad knew like a guy that's kind of high up there. So and those two just happened to, like, I'm not joking, like they were on top of each other. Like I went and did this shadowing thing, and then I met this guy. His name's Chris, really good guy, and he was like, hey, do you want to help me swap my radio on my 1990 Acura Legend? And I was just like, dude, I just did this. I know how to do this, right? So like that was just like the spark. And I remember how fun, like, replacing a radio. That's like, I mean, a lot of people say it's probably pretty boring, but I was like, this is so fun. Like, this is awesome. So I actually started a little, like, business. I don't know, the government's probably going to come after me for all of, like, $500 that I made
Back
from,
taxes.
like, 15 to, like, 18 years old. But, yeah, I started just, like, replacing people's radios because I got pretty good at it, and I knew, like, which radios to buy. So they'd be like, hey, I want a radio. What do I get? So that was like, I had my own, I mean, at the time I still had my, what did I have? I still had my Accord, which was like, I put in like that was my first double din radio, which is like really cool because I could watch DVDs on it. So, you take a girl out and you're like, hey, look what my stereo can do. It can watch movies.
And she's like Fast and Furious again.
Again? Yeah, for like the 12th
Like the
time.
12th
Right?
time. Do you not own?
Exactly. So, those two things. Chris asking me to replace his 1990 Acura Legend radio and Keith's mobile audio and custom They do like home stuff too, you know,
Yeah.
home theaters and whatnot. Those two were like kind of the tipping point for me. And then I had not seen Fast and Furious 1 in theater, but Too Fast, Too Furious came out in theater, and I think I saw it like 7 times. I was just like, I was so like, this is awesome, right? And this is actually a perfect segue. So when you do museum delivery, you get to customize a placard on the inside of your car. Okay. I'll talk about what this one says later at the right time. But my last one, for those who know Paul Walker, he was a genuine car guy. He was not just in movies. He was a car guy through and through. Unfortunately, obviously passed away in a car crash. My custom placard, you get 24 characters from Chevy when you build your car. And I put in memory of Paul Walker. And that was exactly 24 characters. And I was like, it's destiny. Wow. It has to be that. And to the extent that I loved it so much, and it meant way more to me than it would mean to any future owner, I went to Chevy and I replaced that part on the car before I bought it, and it is still sitting in my office. And it's also signed by Damon and Dave from Daily Driven Exotics.
That's
so
cool.
it's kind of a sentimental piece for me.
Yeah, I was trying to count the letters in tuna sandwich with no crust. Yeah, I thought that's where we were going with that.
That's my Rocket League tag.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
like, is that 24
tuna
characters?
No crust.
Yeah.
That's my Rocket League tag.
Well, I always like to end with this question, and then before we will talk about what your plaque is at the very end. But this last question, I always like to leave advice for the young version of us growing up, right? The 16-year-old who's watching this, who loves that car, who sees the cars behind us and just is fueling that passion. Whether it's how you got to where you are in life successfully as a business owner, how you got to life personally as someone who's successful, or even just advice of buying your first car, finding that passion. What advice would you like to pass on to the next generation?
I love this question, and I hate it at the same time because I could take an hour to answer this question, literally. To like summarize it all in a couple key points. One is be yourself. Don't do things to impress people. Don't do things to get included in things. Like I said, the McLaren, that was one of the only things I actually didn't like. It was kind of a reverse effect, right? It was like I didn't like all that attention in that almost negative way. I won I don't remember what it was, like the Trust Award. I think it was like in 7th grade. It was like teacher picked, kids that got these different awards. And that was the first time I had been like acknowledged by people other than my parents. Okay? Parents always acknowledge you. They hype you up. And that was one of the first things that I remember in like growing up, right? That was like, man, I've been seen and heard by people. And I asked myself, like, what did I do to deserve that? Like what made them see that in me? And it was literally just like, just be yourself. Like, just be yourself. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing is I have to be strategic with every dollar that I make and every dollar I spend. And I think this is just good financial advice in general for anybody, but live below your means. The only way to get to a point where you have the opportunity to do these things, to buy the nice cars, to buy the nice house, I just bought a vacation home, to do those things is literally to live below your means up until the point where you now have the income and the ability to make fun decisions, right? So at the time, I remember when I bought the McLaren, I probably shouldn't have, but I could afford it, right? And then I remember part of the ownership of the Stingray that was so nice was it removed a lot of the financial pressure of owning a car. And I was like, man, I can have just as much fun in this, and it's a third of the price.
Right.
So living below your means, right? Don't try to keep up with the Joneses. You never will. Trust me. There will always be somebody that has more money, has, whatever it is, that more something, right?
Or more
whatever.
credit card debt or more loans pretending they have
Exactly,
the money,
right?
Like,
just because somebody has the Lamborghini or the, whatever, doesn't mean they can actually afford it. If you pay cash, which I did for this car, for a car, that should mean a lot more to you than the guy that leverages himself out the yin-yang to afford things that he can't actually afford.
Yeah.
Third thing, and last thing, is take calculated risks. I got called by my now president of my company, my business partner, in 2020, and he said, hey, I'm leaving. And I said, what do you mean you're leaving? And he said, I'm leaving, and I'm starting a business, and you're coming with me. Are you in? And I remember at that time, I was in a pretty comfortable 9 to 5, working for a big corporate company, getting a halfway decent paycheck, But I was just like, I believe in the group that I knew that was going to start that business, and I knew there was an opportunity to get outside of that 9 to 5. And it was going to be a huge, and still is a huge grind to get out of that path. But I knew that there was a light at the end of the tunnel, that I was willing to explore that, knowing that at that time I had the financial means that if that business opportunity would have completely imploded, I was very marketable. I could have got hired somewhere else, but it was like, I have to explore this and see, can it become that, right? Yeah. Can this be my opportunity? And that's why I did that. I took that, again, calculated risk, not just, put 1,000 on black, right? But it was a calculated risk of understanding, if I'm willing to put in the blood, sweat, tears, the equity to build this business alongside my partners that I believed in too, that was my opportunity. And that's not everybody's calling. That's not everybody's opportunity. But everybody, I'm convinced, at some point in life will have those opportunities to make those kind of leaps. And it's just, is it the right time? And don't be afraid that this is going to be my only time, because there will be another one. It's just a matter of which one's actually right for you.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great advice. I really appreciate you sharing that. And thank you for coming on the show. But we do have to end with what's on the plaque now.
So the plaque in this car, when this car came out, it was unveiled through a YouTube video, unfortunately. The Stingray was unveiled through a big public party thing, whatever. But the YouTube video was termed "Putting the World on Notice." That's a pretty bold statement, right, for a car. Putting the world on notice. We're coming for you, right? So the placard, I did not have enough characters for putting the world on notice, but it says the world is on notice.
Like that.
Nice. That is awesome. That is great. Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Appreciate you having me.
Absolute pleasure having you.
Always.
Yeah, and drive safe. Take chances. I don't know.
I got to throw you guys the keys. You got to drive it at some point. The fact that you haven't shuttered at this point is kind of a crazy thing.
Yeah, I think this year's going to be the year where I get back out and have some fun.
Yeah. Let's take it to High Plains.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, cheers, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.